Hey everyone, welcome to my review of Ammonite. So I got to see Ammonite last night. It was definitely one of the best films I've seen in the past year. I think it's going to be an awards contender in this crazy Oscars year that we're currently still in. It's hard to make any firm predictions about what the best films of the year are going to be, since even though it is almost the end of January, we still have a lot of films yet to come for this award season. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started with my review. So first of all, I just want to talk about some of the things that I really liked about the movie. I think it's going to be a big contender in the acting awards categories. Even if you haven't seen the movie and you just saw the cast, you would probably think, oh, this is Oscar bait, as they say. For those who haven't seen it, just a quick overview. It's a historical drama starring Saoirse Ronan and Kate Winslet about a female paleontologist, or I think that's the right term. It's not archaeologist, paleontologist, living at a time when it was a very male dominated, almost, I think, completely male dominated, not just profession, but society. So that even though she was one of the most important scientists in this field and made a lot of incredible finds, she was in a position where not only were her accomplishments ignored, but they were actually, credit was given to men who took her finds and presented them to the museum basically on her behalf, and then got all the credit. So it's a real shame. And I don't know how accurate this movie is. I have listened to an interview with Kate Winslet on the WTF podcast, and it definitely seems like they did make some, not assumptions, but they just made some choices about her life, because there's a lot that we don't know. And so they gave her a life that probably is not exactly accurate, but it's in order to tell this story. And so I think that the story and the fiction of it is more important than that they get all of the details right. So anyway, I was supposed to be talking about the acting, and the acting, as you probably guessed, was amazing. First of all, the two leads, Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan, this is some of their best work. But then also I want to highlight a couple of the supporting characters. First of all, Fiona Shaw is in it, and anything that Fiona Shaw is in, she always raises up. She is just one of those character actors that always does a great job, and you're always happy that she was in any movie that you see with her in it. So she was great, even in a pretty minor role. And then I also want to shout out the doctor character. I don't even know his name, but he was really good in a very small role. His character had a very sad scene, very sad moment in the movie, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I thought he was great. I've never seen him before, or if I have, I didn't recognize him, which is probably a sign of a really good actor. But he was great, and everyone in the movie was great. So don't be surprised to see several nominations for the acting. Another thing that I really liked was the way the story built. It was very slow, and I've seen a lot of complaints about how it was boring. But this, I really like these slow boils, and especially when you can create a suspense and tension that isn't manufactured, but is based on the characters and the choices that they've made, getting you to a place where, as an audience member, you're like, it's excruciating. And there was one scene in particular where that was definitely true. And I think you're all familiar with the type of character who is making bad choices, and you're shouting at the screen, no, don't do that. It's a staple of horror movies and many types of movies. And often that is unearned. And when characters are making bad choices, you're just left thinking they're stupid. And I'm glad that they just got killed off. But in this movie, this character is in a situation and you know she's going to make a bad choice and you don't know what that choice is going to be. You don't know how it's going to blow up. But I'm talking about the scene where they are at the recital and she's been in, Kate Winslet's character, Mary, has been invited there by the doctor, who obviously is trying to court her, and she insists on bringing Saoirse Ronan's character, Charlotte, with her as her guest, and so it's the three of them. It's kind of setting up this triangle, and then Fiona Shaw is there as well, and it's been pretty clear that in the past, Fiona Shaw's character and Mary have had an affair of their own. And this is before anything has happened between Mary and Charlotte, except you can start to see that Mary is starting to have feelings for them and doesn't know how to deal with that. And so they're all together in this situation, and you just know something's going to go wrong, and you know someone's going to be disappointed. And when it plays out, it's so heartbreaking on a subtle level. You know, it's not some big dramatic moment. Mary just can't take it anymore. She sees Charlotte sitting next to Fiona Shaw, and maybe they're flirting, and it's driving her crazy, and she just can't handle it, and she walks out. And when she walks out, the doctor realizes she's walked out, and you can just see the disappointment. And it's such a beautiful scene, and so well acted and so well crafted the way it was written, without some big rom-com dramatic moment or anything. It's just very simple. And I think we can all identify with many of the characters in that scene. I think we've probably in our lives been in several different shoes of this type. That's a bad metaphor, but we can all identify with several different people in that scene being in different positions. Anyway, my point is, it's a beautiful scene, a high point of the movie. It comes about halfway through, so spoiler alert. Another thing I really loved about the movie was the sound design. The movie takes place in a very bleak setting in northern England, in Lyme. I don't know where that is, but it's just, the weather is oppressive, it's gray, there's very little color in the movie, and the sound, there are moments where it's dead quiet, and then other moments where you're at the ocean and it's so loud, it's overwhelming and oppressive, the sound. And the layers are just amazing. And normally I don't think about a lot about sound. I'm not a sound expert, but I really thought the sound in this movie, along with the score, but particularly the sound, was very powerful and really added to the oppressive feeling that we had watching, and was supposed to put us in the shoes of the main character, Mary. And finally, one other thing that I really liked, I noticed in the reviews since watching it that a lot of people complained that there's no chemistry between the two leads, and that was the number one reason I saw for people not liking it. But what I liked about the movie was these are two characters that are not charismatic. They are both sad, difficult people in really difficult situations, never having been given a chance to be their own person in the way they wanted. And I guess that's especially true of Charlotte. Mary has kind of attempted or been forced to live life on her terms, and has struggled to find her place in the world. And so these are two very difficult characters, and it's not a rom-com. It's not two movie stars that are so charming. Too often this character that Mary plays in this movie gets turned into this irascible misanthrope, often played by Jack Nicholson or an actor like that, as someone who always is saying awful, hurtful things, but is charming. And you can't help but kind of, liking him despite all his flaws. These aren't those characters. These aren't movie characters. These are real, troubled, struggling characters that don't have much in their life, and it's difficult, and they're depressed, and they aren't likable, and they find each other, and so it's not going to be charming 40s rom-com or noir where the dialogue is so witty and sparkling. No, it's not that type of movie. And so to condemn it for the lack of chemistry, I think really misses the point. And this is what I appreciated about it, is that we were looking at, I'm not going to say real people because they're created for the screen, but I think we can identify with their struggles and their loneliness and their depression and how difficult it can be to connect to people sometimes. And so that's what I really appreciated about it. And so I think that complaint, while everyone's entitled to their opinion, I think it's really misguided and missing the point. One more thing I do want to add that I really liked: the end, that final scene in the museum with the two of them kind of not facing off, but just looking at each other over the display of the fossil that Mary had discovered. It's very symbolic and just a beautiful shot and a beautiful moment, and really captures the sadness and the loneliness that these two characters are obviously going to continue with after the movie's over. So I thought that was great. And so really quickly, I do want to mention I would mention the things that I don't like. There's really only one complaint. It's not a complaint, but just a nagging feeling about the movie. I feel like it didn't really fully capture the nature of their relationship in the way that was 100% satisfying. I know that it was meant to end sadly, and it was supposed to be just this moment that they shared that was never destined to last. And so I get that, but I felt like there's a little bit lacking about, like, what was it that they really found in each other that they couldn't have found elsewhere? Or was it just that, they just happened to be in this place where they were forced into close proximity and this happened between them? I just feel like there's a little bit left unexplained, unexplored, I think is the better word. And I would have just liked a little bit more depth, but I think that it's meant to be unsatisfying and a bit ambiguous and to lack closure. I get that. It just, I do understand where some people would complain about it. And so that's really the only negative that I can point to. Other than that, I just thought it was a great movie, a really well acted, well written, well directed movie. One of the best movies I've seen this year. Not for everyone. If you want something that's more uplifting, this movie's not going to be for you. But if you like to suffer, but for a point, and to learn something and to get a really good look at human nature and human relationships, then this movie is for you.